Man, everybody's trained to go to Abilene or go to San Angelo, and it's tough. It's tough in small town USA. I always said I don't want to be in the meat industry if I can't. Just a day working hand can't come in my store and afford to feed his family good food. Ain't no point in doing it. There is a lot of free stuff that's good, but I think that's stuff that you got to put, like I said, put some skin in the game. If you got to pay something for it, I think you're going to get a lot more out of it. Learn your business from top to bottom. Don't ever let an employee or anybody, if you own that business, don't let anybody have something to hold over your head or keep you over a barrel. Like, they can't fire me.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. Today we have Dusty Grun on. We got a lot to go over. He's a rancher, a business owner. They've got a cool charity deal going on. He's a preacher. Got a lot to talk about. How's it going?
No, pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what's your background? How did you become what you are now?
No, background, grew up, born and raised. My granddad was we grew wheat to turn cattle out on, and he had a lot of cow calves turned out around southern Taylor County, so grew up. That's all we knew. We got out of school, we went and worked cattle and go to church on Sunday and wake up and do it all over again. So that's all I knew. You know, small town, just a church and a fire station, nothing else, just family and land. So grew up just planting wheat and turning calves out.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever have any aspirations to be anything else and involved with ranching and agriculture in some way?
No, I knew I always wanted to feed cattle. My granddad I guess we partnered on my first set of calves when I was 8. We bought a pot load from Cookie Coleman over in Texarkana and turned those calves out. And I think we ended up making enough money. We went and bought a hamburger in Coleman after we sold them. It was a terrible deal. Dry year, didn't make much wheat, but I was hooked after that. He got me hooked into agriculture the most because we'd sit down anytime we were at the table or it rained out, we'd get the Livestock Weekly out and we'd go to the classified ads and he'd tell me, hey, if you bought this load of cows, how long would you have to keep them to turn a profit? Or if we bought this set of yearlings. So I knew I always wanted to be in it at some way or another. But my boys now are the 6th generation on our home place. So kind of building a legacy there. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you kind of went to school for a little while, and what were you learning down there?
So I was an animal science major at A&M, moved down there. My sister went down there, met my wife. We got married, we had 2 of our boys while we were down there, and life changed and had to move back home, so I didn't quite finish. But back in 18, I finished up with, back then it was called Ag Leadership and Development, over at Tarleton, so finished up with that in 18.
Yeah, it seems like college to me is very good for meeting spouses and like lifelong friends and stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I tell my boys. It's like, man, you think all those kids you run around with in high school are going to be your people forever, but chances are there's not going to be very many of them around whenever you're 35, 40 years old and you look back.
Yeah, everybody goes different paths. And
yes, sir.
I don't know, I guess maybe when you're in college, I don't know why, it just seems like those people always kind of stay connected a little bit more maybe.
Yes, sir.
Especially now that social media is a thing and you can kind of keep up with everybody on Facebook or Instagram or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think at A&M we were the first class of kids. We had to create a MySpace page, and that was like foreign language to me, so we kind of got in on the early days of that.
Mm-hmm.
But social media, it's crazy now.
What did you do when you came back from College Station?
So I came back from College Station. We were broke. We were bad broke. Moved in with my parents, and I got a job at the tire factory in Abilene, Bandag. I think I worked there 45 days or so, and I said, man, I got to get out of this place. So went to work for some guys that turned out a whole lot of recip cows for 44 farms all across the country down there. So took care of all those for them. Did that for several years. Boys got to grow up going with me every day, horseback. So it was good. And then finally got to the point where it's like, man, if you're ever going to make it on your own, you got to pick something and go make something for yourself instead of making everybody else money in the cow business. So kind of went back home, got with my dad and said, hey, let's try to try to start honing in on something here. And then COVID happened, and we had all those calves sitting there fixing to sell them. We always sold them at the sale barn. We didn't ever put loads together or anything. So I told him, let's just keep this set. Of course, all the big brand stores were raking everybody over the coal for junk meat. I told him, let's just feed them and let's start selling some beef to people. That way, at least they'll know what they got. So we kind of got in on that, and I guess the rest is history. That's where it all kind of started, and went down, dropped a couple calves off that I had sold, halves and wholes, to Steve Hall down there in Coleman. My mom graduated with him. He had the locker plant there, and I was just being goofy one day and said, hey, why don't you sell me this place? And we unloaded my calves. He said, matter of fact, I think I will. And I think we closed on like 2 weeks later, and we were in the meat processing business. So it's been a wild ride, but it's been a good one.
Yeah. So now you got the kind of the whole deal. You're going from feeding them. I guess you're raising some,
we're raising them,
feeding them, and then killing them, and then retailing them.
Yes, sir.
And y'all are, what's your model now? I know like Luke and them carry some of y'all's meat in their store. Are y'all selling individual cuts? Or are you selling whole sides? Or
so we do both. We still sell anywhere from an eighth to a whole. If you call us, we'll get you worked in, whatever you want to buy direct from us. But we've kind of downsized on our small town stores. We kind of figured out real quick that, man, everybody's trained to go to Abilene or go to San Angelo, and it's tough. It's tough in small town USA in that industry. So we've scaled back on those small stores. We've put a lot of effort into Abilene, and we're about to open a location in San Angelo where we sell every individual retail cut through there. So,
and is it y'all's
yes,
meat
sir,
market?
all our beef, yes, sir.
Is it G3?
G3 homegrown is what we call that, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. And that's what those retail stores are called?
Yes, sir, G3 homegrown.
What's the processing plant called?
Coleman County Processing.
Okay. So how has that been? I know the meat deal in 2020, every person that had any kind of cattle kind of went that route to try to sell some. But y'all, not everybody's been able to keep it going. What have y'all been able to do? Like, what did y'all have to do to keep it going?
I think our situation's unique. Maybe not unique to people that are doing the same thing we are, but as a whole, everybody booked dates everywhere. That's what got everybody. 2020, 21, 22, probably starting in 22 is when it really started hitting. Everybody had all those cattle on feed. Then they figured out, hey, this ain't exactly the cheapest thing to do to make money. So I think a lot of those people, cattle market went up. They sold those cattle. So people were canceling dates right and left. I think we were booked out a year and a half and ended up looking up, and we had very few of those commitments. So we just put more cattle in the finishing pen and just went to killing. It's like, well, if we can't fill these dates with other people, we're just going to fill them ourselves and get to pushing our product. So I guess that's what drove us to take our company to the next level. My wife and my mom, they run kind of the retail side of it. My wife does all of our online orders and marketing, and she works at the processing plant every day too. But, they just kind of gave them a challenge, and they took it, and they've just ran with it. And it's been cool to watch. We're nowhere near where we want to be, but it's growing every day. So,
Yeah, that was a pain back during COVID when everybody booked all those dates, because I had a calf that was pretty close to ready, and I just figured, about a month or something, I'd give them, try to call and book a date. And I called, and they're like, oh, no, I think I finally got in somewhere. I had a connection that knew somebody, somebody knew somebody, and I got that calf in a little ways out, a little bit longer than what I thought, but whatever. And then it went to where you better plan a year in advance.
Yeah, sure.
And then now it's back to we're fixing to get another one done. And I just called the other day, like 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah, sure. It's calmed down. Of course, this summer or spring and summer, it's record cattle prices kind of hit the processors pretty hard, because everybody's looking, well, I can go sell this thing for $2,500, $3,000. Why in the world do I want to eat him?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, just wait. That rise in that meat price and that store's coming. You just hold on. But a lot of people sold out, but still we were able, I guess we got, 250, 300 head on feed all the time. We're not any large operation by any means, but it works for us. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like the prices. A lot of people talk about like the price of beef, like how expensive it is and how expensive it is to eat healthy. And I think it's all a bunch of bullshit because the last calf we got killed is a Wagyu Angus cross. You know, some of the best beef you can get. I mean, there's different breeds that are really good, but this beef was very good. And we got it put in the freezer. I think it was a little under $5 a pound or something. I figured it up one day. Of course, it's a lot of upfront cost, and you got to have the freezer, which in 2020 you couldn't even get a freezer either. But now all that's calmed down a little bit. If you can just pay it up front, you know, get some really good meat for less than $5 a pound, and then. I mean, and that's like I said, it's a high dollar one, and I didn't feed that one. I had a buddy of mine fed it, so he charged me $2 a pound live weight, and then got it done at Broken O. But like if you went and bought a Holstein or Jersey calf or a broke leg calf or you know something like that and fed it out, I mean I don't know what that would figure, but it would be cheaper. DX Trailer Sales is based out of Lubbock, Texas, and it is definitely not just a trailer dealership. If you are involved in the Western way of life, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are, then they have something you need. From trailers for a day working cowboy to a full-time cattle hauler to hay trailers for a farmer or rancher to arena drags, rope and chutes, and feeders for the rodeo cowboy or cowgirl. They also deal in every kind of hay any of your animals could ever need. Literally anything you need, farming, ranching, or rodeoing, they're going to have something for you, and it's going to be at a super affordable price. Besides all that, everyone you deal with there is super friendly and very helpful. So check out DX Trailer Sales on Facebook or dxtrailers.com and tell them you came from the Wealthy Cowboy Show.
Well, it's all relative. I tell everybody this ain't the beauty shop. You can't send your wife in here looking like something and come out looking like $1 million. You're going to get back what you put in it. So
yeah.
You either get a good calf and feed it good, or you bring me something sorry, you'll get less and not be as happy with your product. But yeah.
I've seen some steaks from Jerseys and Holsteins that looked really good, but then when I've tried it, you know, I don't know if it's the genetics on the ones I had or my ration or what it was, but mine never came out as good. It was still good, but not
it's
as
still
good
better
as
than anything you buy in the grocery store for sure. That's what everybody says. And I tell all the people in town, we get lots of soccer moms and everybody come in our store and say, just take it and try it. And I promise you take it and try it. And if it's not better, you bring it back, I'll give you your money back. And we haven't had to refund anybody yet. So
yeah, even like you said, like the worst calf that we've raised and fed and got done was still better than just a crappy cut of meat at the store. If you're going to go to H-E-B, you know, I know all the stores are different, but at H-E-B, if you buy a choice or a prime cut, you know, that's a pretty good cut of meat, but just a regular old select, or if you're at a different place that doesn't have good stuff, it's probably is a Holstein or something anyway.
There ain't no telling especially if it's ground meat, there's no telling how many different cattle you're eating right there. So
yeah, and that, I don't know, that ground beef, I love it. That homegrown ground beef, I don't know why it comes out so much better, I guess because it's actually good. Yeah, sir. I don't know what all the deal is, but it's definitely very good. You can tell a big difference.
For sure. The quality's there for sure, and if it's raised and taken care of in a different way, I say if you're able to do it, you ought to get on it, at least try it once. I don't think you'll ever go back to the grocery store for it. So.
Yeah. What about your, tell us a little bit about the ranching operation side of it. I know Luke, we talked about that. Luke's who told me about y'all, and he said that y'all had a pretty rough go starting out with some yearlings or something for somebody else, and then now you've built it up into a really good deal. Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, my granddad always says if you're a yearling guy and you ain't been broke twice or bankrupt twice, you ain't no good at it. But it didn't take me but a couple of times of not making much money to realize, hey, this may not be my ball game. So my granddad died, I guess it's been 9 years ago. And when he died, I told my dad, let's get out of this farming deal.
we can't put cattle on it. We got to play the wheat game and get pennies on the dollar return on it. It's not worth it. So we put everything in grass and bought a few more cows and put out. So we just went cow calf, retain all of our calves for the most part. Now we try to run more all natural. If they get vaccinations, we got to doctor them pretty hard or something, we'll get rid of them. But we try to retain most of those calves, put them on feed. We've done it long enough now that I can sit. We're tracking those calves, and man, it's been cool to be able to watch putting this bull on this set of cows. What are they producing? Or well, we may need to change it up. Our ribeye area is going down on this set of cows that we got this bull on. So
you're able to see it all the way through.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever we bought the processing plant, it changed everything as far as what we did.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're not, even if you are selling your calves in lots at Oak City or wherever you're taking them to, I think there's a lot of value in taking a set of those calves all the way through the rail just to know what you're producing. And seeing probably a lot of these guys, I think, that are raising these calves and selling them at weaning or selling them as long yearlings, I think they're leaving a lot of money on the table they're making people a lot of money sending them quality loads that I see rolling through the sale barn in places that.
Yeah, if you're going to spend the time to raise a good quality animal, it'd be better off to take them all the way through.
Now, granted, it seems like it's going to be forever before you get that paycheck, putting them on feed. But if you can stomach it and you can hang in there, it's been well worth it for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we went, getting sale barn prices to, you can kind of name your price depending on how good and how far you feed them. We've got some calves. My buddy up at Wolfforth was doing a bunch of calves for us. We have some calves going prime pretty quick, kind of have some genetics that we've kind of honed in on. And in fact, we killed a couple head this week, and I'm pretty sure they're going to go prime. So finally getting it to where, we can have, I always said I don't want to be in the meat industry if I can't, just a day working hand can't come in my store and afford to feed his family good food. Ain't no point in doing it. And I'm not. Everybody says getting the Wagyu, getting the Agushi deal. I said, no, it's not my deal right now. If I can feed these Angus-based calves and get them to hit prime, then we'll have a prime case in our stores. But for the most part, it's going to be that choice steak, and I just want to be able to feed people. Everybody needs to make a little bit, we're not doing it for fun all the time. It is fun. We're blessed to get to do what we do for sure, but you got to make your money, and it's been cool to watch that develop over time. Back when you just go buy a bull and chunk it out and set of cows just to have a calf to throw in a trailer to haul to town, that's a whole different ball game than when you care about what is hanging on that rail. So,
And what are y'all running all Angus?
It's Angus based. We got a lot of Angus Hereford, Angus Charolais crosses. I've got a little set of cows turned out up in the Cedars. That's just like some half-blood Coriani cows, and people think I'm crazy, but you put an Angus bull on them, you put them on good feed. To me, it's ideal for a in-town meat market because, where I would want to eat the biggest ribeye I got in my deal, those moms feeding families look at those and it's like, man, that looks like a lot of leftovers or waste. I don't know what to do with that. So they kind of, bring your size of your steaks down a little, but the quality's still there. So they're working in certain areas. We don't have a ton of them left, but mainly everything we got's around half, 3/4 Angus.
And running Angus bulls
Well,
back
we just bought a load of red Angus bulls and put on we fed out a set of red Angus heifers that I got off my brother-in-law. They run a bunch of cattle, and I fed out those red Angus heifers, and man, they did good. So we're switching it up a little to see if them red cattle do a little bit. At the end of the day, it don't matter what color hide I put in that barrel. I'm worried about what's under it. So
yeah,
yes, sir.
What do you think? Like, what's y'all's deal on the cows? Are y'all keeping up with that on the cows? Are y'all tagging those calves and kind of keeping up, or culling back through the cows too and the bulls? Or
oh, for sure. If something's not producing, it's gone. If we're hanging up some calves and we know what bull they went to, what cow they came off of, and if they're not doing it, then they're gone. We go ahead and send them on to the packer and be done with them. So, we're trying. Of course, that's a slow process unless you just completely clean house. But I don't want to start over with no information. Just take somebody at their word for as bad as that sounds. But slowly over time, we've been culling through those cows, selecting for size, selecting for ribeyes. I like those medium frame. My granddad used to run some big old Simmental cross cows. I mean, that couldn't fit 3 of them in this room together, and it's just like, golly, in our country, that don't work. You gotta
they got to eat a lot.
Some got to be a go-getter over there. So it's been good. We scaled our size back, kind of got that moderate frame to them. So they're working pretty good.
Yeah, they don't eat as much. I've got, on my cow deal, I've got just horn cows, just Corrientes and Longhorns. I think works good for where they're at. And, I wean some dang calves off of them that weigh nearly as much as they do. Sometimes they can be a little slower growing and stuff, but the cows require no maintenance. So I don't know. I think you just gotta
do what fits you.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think it's cool that you're able to see that end product and be able to go back and adjust accordingly, and then having the patience to do that. I mean, Dad always talked about that. He's like, man, I think it'd be so cool to have, to have some cows and then have a restaurant and take them all the way through and then sell them retail in your restaurant. And I'm just like, yeah, but you're not getting paid for a very long time.
Yes,
so there's
one steak at a time. That's a long time waiting on that to come back.
Yeah, it doesn't cash flow very much. You would probably get the most money in the long run, but you still got to have some cash flow in there somehow.
Oh, if you're raising oil and gas, it'd be real good.
Yeah.
It'd sound real good for sure.
What about your feed program when y'all wean? Are you going to a yard? Are you running them on grass for a while? Or?
So we built right there at our house. We got some big traps. I put some feed bunks in, made some feed alleys there. If we got grass, we'll go to it. This past year's been tough, so I took a lot of weaned calves and put them straight on a grow ration. Really thought we were going to take a pretty good hickey on it, but it ended up those calves really turned to crank and went to work. So it really wasn't too bad of a deal. Ideally, yes, we go to grass and get their frame grown, get their old belly stretched out, then put them on feed like anybody else. That's our ideal. But this past year's been a little different. Had to go ahead and just wean them and go ahead and stick them straight in. We got bigger traps. We're not really isolating and putting them in like feed yard setting. I want them to have to travel a little bit, and I think they do better whenever you make them move a little bit. So we kick them out in those traps and go through them, make them travel to come to feed.
And you mentioned you're kind of doing all natural. Are y'all vaccinating or doctoring at all, or how's that look?
I mean, if they need doctoring, we'll sure doctor them, bare minimum. A lot of them, I don't know, it's been a weird deal. I grew up, man, we gave every shot under the sun, and if they were sick, boy, you rolled to them with that, whatever it took. And going into the meat side of things, you have, after COVID, everybody's worried about what's in that bottle of water right there. And then you mention meat, and they'll ask you. I think I've learned more from people coming in the store asking me questions than I do sitting back and thinking about it myself. But we've kind of scaled back. Like I said, if we do have to vaccinate or doctor on a set, they'll just go to we'll market them different. They won't go into the feed program. We've kind of, which our place is pretty close. We're pretty fortunate in that. Don't have a lot of neighbors, so we can kind of isolate them calves and keep them, we can get right on top of some. We haven't. Our death loss is, man, minimal compared to what used to be when we were kicking out a bunch of sale barn cattle, So we're very minimalistic in that setting. Like I said, if they go to a different program. They flunk out of our meat market deal, which is a lot of people. They're like, well, that's pretty ignorant, but it's what works for us. I don't want to tell you that it's natural and then go pump them full of stuff and then be that guy.
Yeah, try to skate by on those labels. I'm not sure all the regulations, but I think to get it labeled organic and all these other labels they put on it in the store is like you can kind of cheat your way through that a little bit. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely organic or whatever.
Oh, if those state guys are doing that, we got a good group of inspectors where we're at. So I mean, they'll hold your feet to the fire and make you. I'm not saying it's like that everywhere. I think there's some people pencil whipping some labels pretty hard, but I just kind of stay in my lane and do what I do. Let them do their thing. So
yeah, I don't know where that's headed with the cattle health. Like every year, you talk to everybody's having hell with keeping stuff alive and trying different medicines, different vaccines, and some people hit them hard coming in, whether they're sick or not, and then some people don't. And I don't know what the best thing is, and it's hard to see one when they cost $1,200-$1,500.
It's hard to watch it and hope you get better.
Yeah, coming in, and then I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to have to come to a head at some point, and there's going to be a big change. I think
it's coming. I think that's just the nature of the beast. I think we're coming back to that. I'm not going to say that organic and all that. I don't want to jump on that train with all that, but I think very minimal vaccines and stuff, keep a good, healthy herd. If you need a doctor, one doctor. But I think as far as mass treatments and all that, I don't know where it's headed. I think we're kind of moving away from it as an industry. I could be completely wrong, but that's kind of what I'm seeing in our little neck of the woods. So.
Yeah, and everybody wants to fight each other and get triggered on whatever they're doing is the best way. But, I mean, obviously, like, the most natural way would probably be the best, like stuff from the 1800s, they just run them on grass, and when they got hungry, they went and killed one and ate it. And it was pretty natural deal. And with us being industrialized and stuff, I mean, we can't always do it that way. I mean, I think we've got to have, I think it's really good to have, a good, clean, natural beef and everything, but not every operation can run that way. So there's got to be a blend of the more commercialized and then the more, they're kind of different markets to feed everybody. I mean, you've got to.
Yes, sir.
You got to, like, I know, like, the big deal. I used to think it was all hippie jargon, of the natural and organic and all that. And then I started studying health and all that. And I'm like, no, this stuff is poison. And I don't know, with RFK in office, going to be in office, some of that stuff may change a little bit, but you can't, like, the organic people can't just be like, y'all are just producing poison. Like a farmer or rancher isn't trying to produce poison, but we do have a lot of demand to produce something for somebody to eat,
Yeah, sure. Well, I think a lot of people, that organic and grass-fed, or everybody can make their own assumptions. I believe in feed them corn, let's get them fat, and let's eat them. But, it all boils down to marketing. A lot of them people, they jumped on that marketing, they understood it, and they rolled it out. So I think we were at a disadvantage. My granddad, maybe into my dad's generation, because they weren't they prided themselves in not being tech savvy. They were the ones that held out. They got a cell phone, but it flipped forever till that booger broke and they couldn't get nothing else, So I think our generations are going to change that, because just what's at our hands, we can get the word out better than we could maybe 20 years ago. So I think it's our job to educate those people, to say, hey, it may not be exactly what this is, but let me tell you how we're doing it in the healthiest way possible to give you the highest quality product at the end. But that's on us. We gotta believe in what we're selling and tell everybody we can that wants to listen to it about it. So,
and we can't be like enemies, so divisive. That's what, on the political side, everybody wants to be one way or the other and just beat each other's throats. No, we need to, gotta be able to talk about it. Like, if they're going to say that you're trying to poison them or whatever, and you come at them and state your case, and then maybe y'all kind of come to middle ground and show that you don't have bad intentions. Maybe you're not educated, maybe they're not educated, and both can learn something from it.
I think we're quicker to spread our facts instead of lies about who our competition is. It'd be a whole different, like you're saying, it'd be a whole different ball game. Mm-hmm. People come to me all the time, how can you stand that processor over there? It's like, I don't have nothing. I can't butcher every calf in our part of the world. It's just not. Our place is maxed out. Just because we're in the same industry don't mean we're enemies. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I don't have the time or the effort for all that all that drama that comes along with that. I'm with you. Let's just all agree to get along, and if I can help you out, hey, I'm glad to do it.
Yeah. And the marketing is so huge, like you said. I mean, I think it's awesome what the Angus people did, whenever that was in the 90s or 2000s, whenever that started. But now everybody thinks the Angus is the best, and I mean, they're good, but strictly for marketing. And you probably know that certified Angus beef sticker doesn't mean that they're Angus.
Yeah,
they just have to be black.
You just got to have that dark hide over a certain percentage.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So it's I talk about it a lot because I study marketing, branding, and sales, and talk about it a lot. Even in our industry, I think it's very important to be able to do that, not be, we want to get shut off like, screw those people. We're just going to ignore them. Well, then we get the worse end of the deal if we try to ignore them. I want to be a movement to speak out and like, hey, every person, all of us start posting some on social media. If you don't know how, message me. I'll show you how to build something up, and educate people and show that we're not against everybody. If you're still looking for the perfect Christmas gift for your kids, you need to check out the Happy Toy Maker. He builds toys that relate to our lifestyle. If you're in the Western or ag industry, there's a toy that relates to what you do so your kids can be just like you. From feed trucks and half-top trailers to rodeo rigs to big trucks and even equipment. Not only are these about the coolest toys that you've ever seen, but they're built to last for generations. Check out the Happy Toy Maker on Facebook or thehappytoymaker.com to get your kids some awesome toys that your great-grandchildren will still be playing with.
I guess in the process, when I first went into the processing plant, I was like, man, if they're selling beef, they ain't butchering here. I'm gonna shut that little deal down if they've been butchering here. But my wife's like, you're ridiculous. Like, there's no way that all those people we can supply that beef to, why don't you just give those people just as good a product as you would yourself, do that job, make them happy, build those relationships, and then you look up and you're just killing for, a select 8 or 10 big people, and then you can fit in the customs that you want to. You're a really good customer. I guess that's kind of where we're going to. I was kind of closed-minded at first, like I'm going to shut this booger down and corner this market hard. But no, I'm with you. We can all push our own products and help each other out. There's plenty of people that need to eat. So.
And that's what it is, your mindset and your mentality of either abundance and there's plenty for everybody, or scarcity. And those scarcity people a lot of times don't last. And if they do last, nobody wants to be around them because they're scared somebody's going to come see what they're doing or steal their client or take their money somehow, And,
yeah, sure.
And being around an abundant guys, they're, whatever, however I can help you, there's plenty for all of us.
Oh, yeah. I have people call me, hey, can we come look at how you're doing this in your plan? I was like, yeah, come on. It's not like I wrote the book on how to kill a calf and get it hung up or cut it up. Just come see. My dad always told me growing up, you can go watch 4 different people train horses, and there's something you can learn from every one of them, whether how to do something or what not to do for sure. But he said, you don't have to take everything they say at gospel truth, but take what you can take and go on down the line. I think whenever you get closed-minded and you don't want to learn from anybody no more, you might as well just go buy your rocking chair and bide your time.
Yeah. That seems to be one of the biggest habits of successful people that I've studied is the ability to learn, and they're always searching for more knowledge. I heard a deal on Sam Walton the other day from Walmart, and he was talking about there was a story about these Brazilian guys were going to open up a grocery store down there, and they flew up. Sam Walton was the only person that would meet with them, the only big retail person that would meet with them. So they flew up. So this old guy in a pickup truck with a dog in the back met him at the airport. And they're like, "Are you going to take us to Sam Walton?" And he's like, "I am Sam Walton."
Mm-hmm.
And said, took him home, and his wife cooked supper and stuff. And they said the whole time he asked them questions about the market down there. They barely even got to ask him anything. And just because he was curious and he thought they may know something, some other kind of edge. And then after that, the craziest part of the story, he went down there and he got thrown in jail because they thought he was crazy. He was on the floor with the tape measure measuring their owl, how big their owls were and stuff. Somebody found him. They threw him in jail. They thought he was some crazy guy or something. And he's a multimillionaire back in America. But he was like, man, I was just afraid y'all had some kind of edge down here that I didn't know about.
They had it inched at their owls.
But always trying to learn.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the guys that I've surrounded myself with, I'm not saying you're good time buddies and all that. I figured out real early in life after I had a pretty bad horse wreck. Kind of made me get my life back on track to where it ought to be. I thought I was, God's gift to running cattle and all that, and he'll humble you real quick on that. But you realize a lot of times them good time friends you got, those are the ones that are holding you back. I've surrounded myself with guys that are a good bit older than me, successful entrepreneurs, and man, I have more fun learning and picking their brains than I ever did going out and hanging out and drinking beer and carrying on what I thought was a good time. It's funny how things change when you change your mindset. So
yeah, your priorities can change.
Yeah, sir.
What about you're also a part-time partner in a church, being a preacher?
Yeah, sure. We're there at Merkel at Calvary Baptist there. My good buddy Colton and I, he's the lead pastor. I'm associate there. So it's good. Small town, salt of the earth kind of people. We tell them we're just a dysfunctional family that gets together and praises the Lord together. So it's been cool. God's moving big and growing that church. So it's kind of what keeps us evened out.
How did that come about?
Well, I just through some friends, we went over there. I guess in 2020, my buddy was a pastor there, and he invited me to go on a mission trip to Africa. So I just hopped on the plane and went with him, went and saw Africa and kind of got bit by that bug. And, man, just the time, if you ever get a chance to go to Africa, it'll change you. It'll change your whole way you look at everything, and just kind of grew real close to that group of guys. And over the years, ended up taking our family. It's a 45-minute drive from the house, but they always say a church of lives worth the drive. So we started making the drive and kind of found community and family there. My dad's always been a pastor, but, sometimes you need to separate that. I don't always need a pastor when I go see my dad. Sometimes I just want to talk to my dad. So, kind of getting that separation there kind of lets him be my dad and not have to be, we'd always talk about church or whatever when I was serving with him at his church. And it's like, man, this is going to have to do something different. So we started going over there, and it's just been amazing what God's been doing in that little town. So
cool.
How we got started there.
And talk about Africa. I saw you went over there and you set up a beef processing plant.
Yeah, so we just opened it about 2-3 weeks ago.
So that all came from that first mission trip, I guess?
Well, that's kind of where it started, kind of got me interested in Africa. You go.
What did y'all do the first time you were there?
So our church sponsors a missionary, and he's over there full time. They have feeding centers and schools and Bible institutes. They're just helping all those jungle villages, try to help them obtain a better education, give them the gospel, show them there's hope. Africa, poverty mindset is rampant over there. It's always been this way. We're going to starve and wake up and do it again the next day. When you spend 95% of what you make every week just to feed yourself and your family, don't leave a lot to look forward to. So I guess I kind of got the bug then. We flew in. I think 2 or 3 days later, they shut international travel off when we landed from that first mission trip. So we almost got stuck in Africa for a good while. But then a buddy of mine called me and he said, hey, I've got these guys that want to come tour your processing plant. I was like, sure, come on. We got time. It's a Friday, I think. And, they get out and which I'm not prejudiced, so don't take this wrong. And he gets out and I recognize him. And then he gets out and there's 4 guys blacker than the ace of spades, all in sports coats. And I'm like, what in the world we got going here, And they came and toured the plant and they kind of piqued my interest. It was, he was a missionary over there, kind of the same setup as the other guys talking about, but he brought some district chiefs with him from over in Ghana. And what got me is we were walking through our plant. We put all of our bones and our waste in bone barrels. And we were walking by and they stopped and they were all sitting there talking in their native language. I just said, man, what are y'all talking about? What are you saying? Because they're getting pretty fired up. They're like, what do you do with that? I said, well, it goes to Darling picks it up and it'll either go to dog food or something like that, just byproducts. They said, you know how many people you could feed that are starving in Africa with that barrel that y'all feed to your dogs? And it's like, all right, I get it. So that hit me hard. My wife and I were fixing to go to Denver, fly out and go to Denver for our anniversary. And I walked in the office and I looked at her and she said, all right, get on there and change your tickets. Looks like you're going to Africa. And I swapped my tickets and I went. And man, it's been wild just to see. I tell everybody it's got to be like whenever the first people came into our part of the world, before the mesquites and before the cedars. I knew a lady that came in on a covered wagon and she said, you'd top a hill and it just looked like an ocean of grass. And when I went to Africa, it's like, man, that's what it had to be like. It's just an opportunity everywhere. They just don't know. Whenever it's like that poverty mindset, if I've got 10 acres, but it only takes 1 acre to feed my family and that's all I'm doing, we got to break that cycle. Everybody's like, well, you're going to go over there and feed them for free. I said, no, I don't want to create a American welfare system over there at all. They're going to have some skin in the game. So that's what started it all. God put it on my heart. Hey, you need to go. That's why I put you in what you've been training for this your whole life. Now you got the meat processing deal. You got it figured out. So, we started Meet the Need is what it's called, MEAT, and it's just taken off from there. We went and built the processing plant there. It's not big, but plenty of space to kill. And we went and killed our first cattle, I guess, 3 weeks ago, and we're able to supplement for those feeding centers where those kids from the villages get to come to. We can supplemented 6,000 meals off that one trip. And we went and cooked the first beef and fed the first kids that plate, and just to see their faces light up, because believe it or not, some of them kids had never eaten meat before ever. Like maybe at Christmas time, some of them get some, or at a funeral, they'll kill a cow usually because they have huge celebrations of life over there. They're a couple days long. But just to hand that kid a plate, he doesn't speak your language, but he can see, hey, this is something different, and watch them take that first bite of meat they've never had. It's been good. It's been real good. We're going to try to, I guess it's my mission to feed as many people here and then to go over there and help as many of those kids to have a future, because it's easy. I tell everybody it's easy to fire up Americans and do things over here when you got an abundance, but when you don't have hope, you're not going to achieve anything unless somebody comes in and shows you. So that's our goal. Go over there, address their physical hunger, get to introduce them to Jesus, show them there's some hope, and keep rocking and rolling. It's been a cool process for sure. It's been wild, but man, if life ain't an adventure, it ain't worth living to me. So,
are there a bunch of cattle over there?
So in Ghana, where I went to Togo first, and then I went to Ghana. Ghana, there's not many cattle there. There's a few herdsmen, but not many. They're mainly supplying for funerals. In Togo, most of the people in the villages where we go are herdsmen, so they'll drive. You'll be out there in the middle of the day, and here will come a teenage kid walking 25 head by, driving them out to go. He's either taking them out or bringing them back for the night. They'll drive them out and graze them, and that's all they do. So we have easy access to them. They're nothing like American cattle. You'll hang them up, and if you get 300, 350 pounds of meat off of them, you're doing pretty good. But
they're like a little Bremer type.
Yes, they're little high horn, flop-eared, kind of zebu cross looking things, which we intend to do some things to change that, better those genetics, but nothing goes to waste over there. I mean, nothing. Stomach contents will go back to feed something else. We had people, so we supplement 6,000 meals, but often, I know off of 2 head, we fed like 120 more people just off the bones and hide. They eat the hide. Everything. You should, if you go, when I come back from Africa, I'm always a little angry at Americans, because we're just so stinking wasteful. Mm-hmm. So, man, I could go to my refrigerator and probably look for stuff that's out of date that would have fed this whole feeding center full of kids. And it just makes you sure enough makes you conscious of what you're just wasting in life. Even not even just from a food standpoint. I mean, just from time. Gosh, we waste so much time doing pointless stuff that has no meaning or purpose. We're just biding our time, and so we're just striving to go over there and give them hope and show them that they have a future and there's a possibility. I mean, sky's the limit over there. But what I've learned is if you didn't found your country on agriculture, which Africa imported everything for the most part, so they're based off imports, have it so backwards, and that's why it's not flourishing. You know, they can, in Ghana, you can grow 2.5 corn crops a year, but you got people starving to death. It's just, you got to go in and educate them. Yeah, sure.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it you know, I think of like little villages and kind of like a Indian tribe type thing. I would think like live off the land and stuff, but what are they like going to town and working like where you were at? Is it like they go to town and have jobs, or is it?
A few of them do. The few that are fortunate to have a job do, but some of them, they're, you know, I'm going to get up and I'll either have some palm trees or some cocoa trees or bananas or whatever. It's kind of my product that they'll get it together and go take it to the market that day. And if they sell it, great. If they don't, then hey, nobody eats that day. So, I mean, they've kind of got the entrepreneur mindset. They just don't know where to go with it.
Yeah.
Like I've got people, I was going to bring a bunch of them over, which getting people over here, excuse me, getting people over here legally is a train wreck. You know, we won't even go there. It'd be easier to cross them illegal than to bring them in the proper way. But we've been trying. I was going to bring a bunch of guys over and train them in the processing plant and send them back. But we can't make that happen. But I mean, I think every guy that was going to come train with me had a master's degree, but nothing to do. Highly educated, but nothing to do with it. So, which we've partnered now. We're partnering with the high school. They're in Ghana. We're going to put an agricultural program together. And through all the trips and through the relationships, illegal gold mining has destroyed their streams, their rivers. They just go in with excavators, dig big holes, and just leave piles of dirt that they sifted through to get gold out. So I made a deal with the government. I said, hey, if I'll take this country and I'll reclaim it and get it back to usable acreage, will you give me a lease on it so we can do something to get sustainable agriculture started back? So we made an agreement there. And we're going to partner with the school and put an ag program in. And when you graduate the program, we're going to give you, maybe 10 acres. And you'll either put it into cocoa production or palm or some kind of ag production. We're going to buy back your goods. You don't have to worry about going to market. It'll be a set price, fair price. And as they develop through that, we're just going to increase their acreage as they stay with us, just to try to, man, you got to stimulate the economy somehow. Just trying to give some people a future, something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. So like they had some cattle. Did they not have anywhere to process at all, or are they just kind of doing it one at a time?
It's just backyard butchering. I mean, just in the dirt. Old school, you know, they don't really have a way of stringing them up in a tree or nothing, so it's just knock them down and do it right there. So that was our main deal. Let's go show them, hey, we can do this. Show them we're going to spray with antimicrobial, kill anything that's on it, chill it down before we grind it, make sure that we hit our temps, do this and present the most safe meat that they've ever eaten, you know. Mm-hmm. I tell everybody, man, they got guts like goose. They could eat anything over there. I about decided they'd about kill me, but we're just trying to show them, hey, there's a different way of doing this. There's a better way. So it's all just a huge education process.
And do they have refrigeration when y'all go in there and start stacking those up? Or
what we did, we built everything's cement blocks over there. Nothing's built out of wood per se. They have termites really bad, and over time, if you don't treat them, then termites will bore through that concrete. But everything's cement. So our processing plant's cement and tiled. If you go to the capital cities, you can find deep freezes, refrigerators, and stuff like that. So we have 6 or 8 deep freezes there inside the packing house. Everything's going to grind. We take it, chill it, then we grind it, package it into 2-pound packages to go out to those feeding centers.
What do you think the biggest thing, like what's your biggest obstacle over there? Is it just switching their mindset over to be able to kind of see some abundance?
I think so. I think it's kind of back to where we were talking. You went back to my granddad's generation. You try to change them or show them something new, it's not gonna be well accepted. So we're mainly targeting that young generation that's in that late high school, early college age, and try to educate them and just change their way of, like, just because you've always done it this way doesn't mean that's the best way. Let us show you, let us help you. And I think so. You're going to have to overcome that. Like I said, that poverty mindset is rooted so deep in them that this is just my plot in life. Get up. If I eat, great. If not, go to bed and I'll wake up hungry again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's what I hear a lot of people, people talk about money. Everybody's scared to make too much money or whatever. And they'll say, I just want to make enough for me and my family or whatever. But then you're not able to help anybody else.
Yeah, sure.
You're not able to help, what if about somebody outside of your immediate family gets sick, or your grandparents, your cousins, your uncle, being able to help other people out. Besides that, you hear people always ask, how much money's too much money. It's like, I don't know, the more that you have, if you have good intentions and you're a good person, you're able to do more good.
Yeah, sure.
So
I don't know that you ever get to too much money. It's when do you get to the point where that money is more important than anything else? That's what's going to get you.
Yeah, it's not having too much money. It's the intent with it.
Yeah, sure. My boys are always like, how do we afford to do this? I tell them, I'm spending your inheritance, so you better hook up and figure out what we're doing over there. So, but no, it's been, and really, it's not that expensive to do everything. Labor's cheap over there. Like, you can give somebody good money for a hard day's work, and it's good for everybody. You give them a job, you pay them a decent wage, and they're going to work their tails off for you. So the guys that we have employed over there and are doing, I wish I could give a shot of it to people over here, because it's like, gosh almighty, y'all don't realize how good you got it, and y'all hate coming here. It's like, what's the point of this? If you ain't doing what makes you happy, go find what it is, because you being here making me miserable, I ain't working out. So
they're a little bit more grateful over there.
Oh, no, if you hear thank you once, you hear it a million times. Like I thought first going over, like they were going to look at you, try to stay away from you. But man, those little kids will run up and they'll hug you because they know, hey, you're trying to bring them something that may change their lives. So it's pretty wild. Like, take a bag of Tootsie Rolls over there and chunk it out in the middle of them, and it's like wild banshees going. Kids flying everywhere. But the cool part about it is a couple of them boys may have all that candy, but they don't eat none of it. Once it calms down, they go around and everybody gets one. They share, and they won't eat it till they make sure everybody's going to get one. So they're just thankful for everything. Anything you do, anything extra for them they're super grateful for. There's no entitlement to anything over there.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, like, in the past? I know there's always been some kind of like charity or missionary work, like, kind of going on over there. Have any of them tried to teach a way of life, like what you have envisioned, or is everybody just kind of giving them some stuff and they're just living off of charity?
No, there's not. Honestly, if you go and look at it as a whole, especially Western Africa where we're at, there's not much. There's not a whole lot of people doing much. The people that are doing are seeing lots of return on what they are doing, but there's not just a whole lot of it going on. You're few and far between. The mission field over there's not very many people called to leave America to go over there to try to help them. So, if we can, I don't know. That's what my main deal is. I'm going to go help, but I'm not going to give you a handout. I'm going to teach you how. I guess it goes back to that teach a man to fish.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I teach you how to raise these cattle and how to put them up where you can feed your whole village or your whoever, then it's at some point it's going to be your turn to get to work. So,
Yeah, I think knowledge is the most powerful thing there is. And I didn't think that at first, but it's really just your time, the time frame that you're thinking of. Obviously you want to go to work and get paid as much as possible, and when you do that, you're probably going to go spend it immediately as soon as you get it. And so, like every week or 2 weeks, you're hunting that paycheck, and that's all you're thinking about. But if you can go learn a skill, either pay for it or if you can get paid to learn a skill, and something that's going to, pay you way more in the long run. It's hard for people. Like it took me a long time to understand that, about like an apprenticeship or all this online education that's going on now, that's super valuable. You can go spend something a course may cost 10 grand, and you're like, oh man, that's freaking crazy expensive. But you're going to go learn a skill to make 10 grand a month,
Yeah, sure.
But the knowledge and education in these books, podcasts, YouTube, mentoring directly from somebody, it's crazy what you can get now, and to see people not put any value on it too. And the value that does get put on it, I mean, you can go learn a lot for free now.
Yeah, sure.
I think the biggest thing is usually the stuff you got to pay for is the accountability, somebody to kind of hold your hand through it.
Well, I think there is a lot of free stuff that's good, but I think that's stuff that you got to put, like I said, put some skin in the game. If you got to pay something for it, I think you're going to get a lot more out of it, for sure.
Yeah, it makes you, that's how I was like at the gym. Like when I started going to the gym, it cost whatever it cost a month. And I was like, I'm going to get all I can out of that fee, monthly fee. I'm like, I'm going every day. I haven't jumped it up past once a day, but like I want to go make my visits as cheap as possible,
Yeah, sure.
Because you're going to be paying it. If you just go once a month, then it's every time you go is $100 or whatever. So
yeah, sure.
That was my thinking. If you can tie something to your, like you said, I heard somebody a while ago while I was at the gym, I was listening to a podcast, and he said that I'm trying to think how he said it. I think he said the heart follows the pocketbook or something like that. And he was talking about like those like courses, like he sells courses and stuff. And he said if somebody pays for it, especially if somebody pays a lot for it, they're going to be more invested in it and more apt to pay attention and learn from it.
For sure. Show me your checkbook and I can show you where your heart is. Yeah. For sure.
And too, I mean, the same deal with show me your calendar and I can tell you where your priorities are. Like you hear people talk about families, their number one priority, but they spend most of their day at a job that they probably don't like. And then you get the family. Then sometimes you come home and you're mad, after you work all day, and then you come home and you're like, oh, I just want to relax. And then the kids are going crazy and stuff. So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Luke Sprayberry and I were talking, and he told me he's talking to a maker, and he said, hey, log your time. Take a week and log your time and write down, this is how much I spend doing this is how much. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. But I did it, and it's like, gosh, we waste so much of our lives that we don't even recognize. Like driving up here, sit on your phone from Abilene to Fort Worth. Chances are I didn't learn a darn thing flipping through whatever I was flipping through, and that's 2.5 hours you ain't going to get back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to tell my boys. It's like, yeah, go do something you love, but man, go make a difference. Because whether you're either going to get paid for that time in dollars or you're going to get experiences and a different kind of payment that no money can't even touch that.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get me wrong, I've got to make a living and live. I'm going to provide for my family and what God gave me. But man, I've just learned we waste so much time and money on stuff. I want to start investing not only my money, but my time into things that are going to give me that maximum return, whether that's helping those kids in Africa or, increasing that processing plant to give more people opportunity. It's just, you got to get to the point where, hey, my time's worth this much and I'm not going to compromise. I'm not like, man, so many conversations that we have in the course of a day. It's like, I could have went my whole life and not had that conversation, being the same dadgum boat I was in when I started, you know? So I think once you get to that point where you're as mindful of your time as you are your money, I think you're heading down the right road. You can start getting some stuff figured out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. The waste. I think somebody that, how I started down this path was day working in the truck a lot, started listening to podcasts and then started listening to books. And, you know, you're not wasting that. I'm always learning, and I still do hardly ever listen to music anymore, you know? So I look forward to long trips and stuff because I feel like I'm going to learn something, YouTube video, podcast, or listen to Audible or whatever. I'm going to learn something. And I think a lot of people have that's in the truck a lot, a truck driver, a farmer that's on the tractor, whatever. You could take all that time that you're in that vehicle, around that radio, whatever, or working, and you can have your AirPods in. You can be double dipping and learning something right there. It doesn't have to be about business or money, or, you know, just be whatever your passion is. You're going to be more knowledgeable, or listen to the Bible or whatever. You can, you can get some kind of mental, you know, get somewhere mentally while you're doing something physically. If you're like me and hate brush on your place, you need to give Double L Land Management a call. They travel all across the country fighting the war on brush and reclaiming land that has been basically useless. No matter if you're dealing with cedar, mesquite, or some other type of unwanted plant, they probably have the equipment to get the job done most efficiently. They have those huge mulching machines that can literally eat a cedar up super fast. If you need something different, like a dozer or a smaller machine or excavator, something like that, they can handle that too. Contact Double L Land Management on Facebook. You can visit their website, doubleLlandmanagement.com, or call 254-978-9294. And be sure to tell them you heard about them on the Wealthy Cowboy Show.
Yeah, you got to maximize it. I'm back on that kill floor. You know, when we're killing, I'm back there 6-8 hours straight, you know. So when I made that switch, it's like, yeah, put your AirPods in and put something on that's, yeah, maybe some days you need a little music. You're just having one of them days. But for the most part, man, I can listen to somebody I may get that one sentence he said in there may change the course of everything for me. And I'd a whole lot rather roll the dice on that than the latest, greatest hits on the radio. So
yeah, I don't have a whole lot of time for entertainment anymore.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I'm just driven to figure something out, you know. Money has been, building a business has been the biggest thing. And that's what I was telling Shady a while back. I was like, it pisses me off so much that there's so many either dumb people or bad people that have a lot of money, you know, and then somebody else is struggling that's, you know, that necessarily doesn't need to be. But I also look at it where, I mean, you got to go through those struggles. You know, God has a plan. Maybe you have to go through that to get to the next step. So
yeah, sure.
There's kind of two sides to it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, you know, my wife and I, we've gone through some rough patches, you know, most of it's due to my ignorant pride, you know. But I look back, man, just chasing that title of wanting everybody to think you're a hand, you know. I got to ride the best horses. They got to think this of me. And, you know, a lot of times if you got a family, if you really sit down at the end of the day, man, you're putting them on the back burner chasing what somebody that you wouldn't even ask for advice, what they think about you. And it was, you know, whenever I had that bad horse wreck and God put me flat on my back, it's like, hey, you got to get some stuff in order. Who cares what anybody thinks about you? I gave you this wife and family, and you're going to have to train them boys up to be men, or the world's going to do it for you, and you're going to have a bunch of counterfeit kids is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So once once you can get to that point, even this last time when I was in Africa, it's just a humbling experience feeding all those kids and seeing those kids, it's just set a plate of beef in front of a kid and he's just bawling his eyes out because he doesn't think he deserves that. It just, I don't know, it hits you different. I got to thinking, I'm 39. If I live to be 80, I've done wasted half the time of my life on earth. Like, it's halfway over. If I don't buckle down and get serious, I'm going to look up one of these days and I'll be that guy sitting in that rocking chair just be like, man. I'll never will forget my granddad before he died. We were sitting in there with my grandma and, he got a faraway look and I was like, man, what's wrong with you? And he's like, I look back on my life and all I have to show is one paid off pickup in this place. My grandma chewed him up one side and down the other, and she said, no, them little boys out there, they're sixth generation, you left a legacy. Maybe it's not asset rich, but they got some dirt. It's got a lot of sweat and blood and tears in it, so that's where I'm at. Money's great, but money comes and goes. You got to look for something that gives your life purpose. And, without God, I don't know how anybody finds any purpose. I think you're kind of wandering around aimlessly. Yeah, you might find some temporary enjoyment and things, but man, since I buckled down, put God first in your family, he'll show you. Like, he's blown my mind. There's no way some kid from South Taylor County ends up in Africa getting to feed people. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but it's cool. It's adventure we're on, and we're going to ride it till it's done for sure.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. What can you define a turning point in your life to where it was like a struggle and then everything started seeming to go better? Was it a God story? Was it some kind of piece of advice or piece of knowledge you got?
Yeah, we were shipping a bunch of cows. We were sorting them up. And the way that pen was set up, all the semis had to drive through that pen as Kalichi. They had to drive through there to go to the loadout or to bring feed or anything. So, it's packed hard as concrete. And I was pretty stinking full of myself. I wasn't tending to my family the way I ought to be. I knew that God had called me to more than what I was doing, but kind of the prodigal son deal. I'd gotten enough of church and all that growing up. So I was kind of doing my own thing, and I cut this old cow out, and she's going down the fence, and she won't turn back, won't honor her horse. I finally just run that mare. I was riding up there, and I just crammed her shoulder, and when I did, that cow sucked back and went under me. When she went under that horse, she just flipped me, and it just slingshot me, and I bounced. My buddy said, you bounced about 3 foot off that Kalichi and broke my back and my hip and my pelvis. I didn't know it at the time. We didn't have insurance, didn't have $1 to our name, so I laid there, and then something about when you're laying in bed, you'd scream to get in the pickup to go check a set of cows, like a bump, it hurt you so bad. And you're laying there and say, man, I don't know if I'll ever ride a horse again. Like, I pretty well thought, well, everything I've ever lived or worked for has been taken away. And that was the turning point for me. Like, hey, you got to wake up. Like, this life ain't about you. You get to be a part of it if you choose. If you do what God's calling you to do and you submit to him, he's going to bless you. And he's going to let you. I tell everybody, do you have to give up some things? Absolutely. You got to give up some friends maybe that don't line up and make you worse than you're called to be. Yeah, I've had to cut some friends out, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing. The life that I've lived since then, following God, when you put him first, he's let me, I get to go compete with my boys horseback. They get to be the 6th generation. Like I said, they get to go hang out with my dad all the time. And, you can't put a value on that. But that's what I warn everybody. I've got several friends, you can see them going down that path. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with cowboying. That's where I'd be all day if that's where he called me to be. But if you're cowboying for the title instead of what God's called you to do, the wreck's coming. I try to tell everybody, man, you've got to be able to get to the point where you can swallow your pride and submit to what God has for you. Maybe you still get to cowboy, but you may have to cowboy in a different way. So that was my turning point. I don't think everybody has to go to a wreck. I'm sure a lot of people are smarter than me and see the warning signs, but that's not where it went with me, but I wouldn't change a thing. Like, I learned so much through that. I went to a doctor 2 years later. He's like, man, what surgeon put you back together? I didn't even know I'd broke all that. He's like, you should be paralyzed. It's like, man, I just laid in bed for 2 weeks and I had to go back to it or I didn't have a job, So, God, that's just God having his hand on me through all that. So many other times, like, I don't know, we could sit and talk for hours about things he's pulled me out of or saved me from, but that'd be my advice to anybody. If you're a day hand or you're Cowboy's what you want to be, man, give God his time. He'll still let you cowboy, but do it on his standards, not what you think needs to be done.
What have been your struggles as a business owner now?
Employees. Meat business is not a business that everybody's knocking your door down to give you a resume. Like if you got good ones, you better hold on to them, treat them good. So as soon as we bought that place, I guess right after we bought it, everybody that had been there knew anything about it got COVID. And it was just me and my wife and one other guy that we brought with us. Probably the best thing that ever happened, the scariest thing that ever happened to us when we bought that business, but the best thing because it forced us to get in there and learn every aspect, every machine, everything. But I'd say biggest struggles is employees, just a workforce, depending on where you're at. Coleman's not a big, heavily populated town, so the good people, chances are they got the good jobs there, and if we were by Abilene, we'd probably have a lot better pool of people to choose from, but employees are hard in that. Meat processing is not a glamour. It's not a glamour deal, and it's a workhorse. So that'd probably be our main challenge. I guess the guy that we bought it from was old school. Everything was pen and pad. It wasn't so swapping all that over to more technology, to more online stuff, to better equipment, automated stuff. That's been a struggle because anything that you put in a processing plant is expensive, really expensive. So I don't know. I don't really call them struggles anymore. It's just opportunities to figure this deal out.
Yeah.
I'm a bored person by nature. If I sit and do something for very long, my mind's always working. So I just accept the challenge. We're going to figure it out. It ain't like we can put a for sale sign on and sell it tomorrow. We're kind of in this deal to win it. So
what have you done to overcome that? Have you figured anything out on the employee side on paying them different, incentivizing them better, anything like that?
I don't know that we should per se incentivize them. You got to pay them a good wage, the ones that are worth it. I heard a guy, I guess I watched a reel on the way up here, and he said, I'd rather have one guy and pay him what he's worth than have three of them that I can't trust to do anything. So I'd say if they're worth it, and a bunch of my buddies have told me, hey, if they're worth it, pay them. Pay them, because if you're having to babysit three, you've wasted more of your time than what paying him was going to cost you. So that's the main deal, If they're worth it, pay them. If it's a job that's like, man, if you compare this job to what everybody else in the job is getting paid, they're making good money. Well, let that person walk out the door and you'll see real quick, hey, maybe I should have gave him $5 more an hour that he's asking for or something, But that's the weird thing about people these days. They'll leave you for a quarter and never ask you to match it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's wild to me. The younger generation especially, man, they don't mind walking in one day. I hired a kid one day and he was gone by 11, just walked out. Nobody knew where he went. I thought he got hurt somewhere. No, he pie-eyed. So it's like, well, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get the luxury of the 2-week notice anymore.
Oh. I tell everybody, I joke, I said, I don't believe in 2 weeks. I believe in the 2-day notice. If you don't want to be here, go on. That's just how I am, though. It's not good for him. I've never had to let someone go and regretted it. Like you can almost every time that either somebody's quit or somebody's been let go, you walk in that place and it's like a breath of fresh air. Like you don't realize how tense they were making it until they're not in there. So,
yeah, I've never had to, anybody under me has been like a day worker. I've hired somebody to day work. I haven't had any employees, but that seems to be a big struggle. And a lot of the business people talk about that. And but they usually say, you know, just go ahead, and everybody's like feels bad and all this, but it's like, just go ahead and do it, because they probably already know it's coming anyway, and you're going to help them out, letting them go to a different opportunity where they may have more of a calling or whatever.
Yeah, if they're miserable, you ain't doing them no favors by keeping them around. I think.
The funniest thing, we went to a conference deal, and this guy, he said, you know, everybody close your eyes. And he said, now I want you to picture the guy or girl at work that everybody hates, you know, is a pain in the butt, talks crap, brings the office down, doesn't get their work done, you know, all this bad stuff. And they're like, now that you got them pictured, when you get back to work on Monday, fire their ass.
Let them go.
Yeah. And he was like, everybody will thank you. And it is like that when I'd rather be shorthanded around, you know, good guys, everybody's working hard and meshes good, than have one person with a bad attitude, you know.
For sure.
So
that's what I've seen, you know, learn your business from top to bottom. Don't ever let an employee or anybody, if you own that business, don't let anybody have something to hold over your head or keep you over a barrel. Like, they can't fire me. Yeah, you can, because I'll step in there and do it till we find somebody else, you know. Don't ever get to that point, because it's miserable. That mindset, I mean, that's poison. Gosh.
And I mean, that's you know, leading from the front, leading by example. You're, you know, if somebody's not doing their job, you're gonna step in and do it.
Yeah, sure.
So that should help your other guys see you go ahead and do that. What's your favorite cut of beef?
Favorite cut? Oh man, I'm a chuck steak guy.
Chuck steak.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say that, I don't think.
I know everybody's like, oh, you got to have a ribeye or filet. All my boys are like, hey, can we have fillets? It's like, I don't think you understand how this works. You can have some ground beef. Like, I do. I like a good chuck steak. Kind of that old school. We cut them all the time. I like those center cut chuck steaks.
How are you cooking it?
Hot and fast. We cook them hot and fast, slice them thin.
Okay.
Got our own seasoning brand that we put on it, and that's what we put on everything. And just get it hot enough to get whatever's going to hurt you off and eat it.
Exactly. What's your favorite restaurant?
Ooh, I don't like restaurants. I really don't. My wife and I were talking about that. The boys were like, oh, can we stop here? Can we stop here? Because we don't, excuse me. We don't get to go very many places too often, but I'd rather eat at home.
Yeah.
Chances are we're going to cook something that's way better than what you're going to go. We take them boys out, you're spending 100, 150 without trying hard. I don't really care for restaurants. Let's go eat at the house.
Yeah. I definitely, it's nice to go get a good experience somewhere, you know, but for sure, I was just talking about that, about the beef, the quality of beef that, you know, that y'all are putting out, that these other local homegrown guys are putting out, is just so much better than unless you go to a high-end steakhouse where you know that they've got good beef. Then I'd rather just eat at the house, you know?
Yeah, sure. That's where I'm at.
And anymore, I mainly eat carnivore, so I fast too, so I eat so much in one sitting. I can't really get full at a restaurant anyway. If I do, it's really expensive. So
yeah, sir.
Rather, like I said, go home, get that $5 a pound beef, and I can eat 2 pounds of it, and $10, I'll be good to go.
I tell you, that fasting is legit.
I've always that's another thing with the mind is you know, we think we're hungry all the time, and I used to think that too, of like, you know, oh man, I'm getting a headache, blah blah, I'm getting weak or whatever. I've been about 90 hours with nothing but water, and really you don't even get you're not even really that hungry. I always just try to set an end time of however long it's going to be, and then I'll probably eat. So, and I'll usually at that time I'll be thinking about food and kind of get to wanting it, but you're not really hungry if you can fight that craving off and like, no, you're not hungry. stay busy, you don't got to eat.
That's how. That's really how Africa kick-started hardcore for me. Is my buddy Colton and I were like, "Hey, we're gonna fast. We're gonna fast for a while and just see, kind of what God's gonna show us." And the longer I went, the more my stomach growled, and I was like, "I can't think about nothing." And this is what I'm trying to tell you. All them kids in Africa, you ain't gonna be able to teach them nothing. If their stomach's growling so loud they can't hear past that. You can't address their spiritual hunger if you can't address their physical hunger.
Mm-hmm.
Fill their bellies, and you can give them hope. That's kind of where it all went from there.
Yeah, I don't see how people do the dry fast.
Mm-mm.
I drink a lot of water, so I don't know how they can do that.
Yeah, sure.
Haven't conquered that one yet, but definitely I can go without food, and it's cool to test yourself.
Yeah, sure.
But
we're a lot stouter than we let ourselves believe.
Mm-hmm. How can everybody find you and help the cause and check out the meat market and all that stuff?
So for the nonprofit, if you go to Meet the Need, MEAT, meettheneed.us, or you can text 53555, text the word beef to 53555. It'll pop up and it'll direct you to a site where you can get more information. Find us at g3homegrown.com. That's our website. Or if you're in Abilene, swing by over on South 14th. We're over there. Have our store there, soon to be opened up behind Arden Vet Clinic there in San Angelo. So look us up.
Cool.
Google G3 Cattle Company Homegrown. You'll find one of us somewhere.
Yeah, it's cool what y'all got going on. So much more than just a meat company.
Yes, sir.
So y'all go check them out and share this out. If you didn't get a lot of value out of it, I don't know what's wrong with you, but share it out. Maybe somebody else will get some value. And we'll see y'all next time.
A mastermind has the sole purpose of getting you further, faster, and that's exactly what we're doing with the Wealthy Cowboy Show Mastermind. It is for the person that's ready to start out building their business or someone just looking to get their business to the next level. We will have live Q&A calls that you can ask past and future guests questions that relate specifically to you. You'll also hear ideas and be able to network with people that could open you up to a completely different way of thinking that could change your life. Click the link below if you're looking to go to the next level in business and in life.